How's it going, Burger Nips? And today you're getting some quick tips on how you can smash your way through plateaus, because there's nothing worse and more frustrating than when you get to a weight in the gym and you just can't get past it. You get stuck on the weight, you get stuck on the reps, and you just can't edge yourself forward. And as you know, I'm not a fan of everything being solved by quick tips, but in this case, these are going to be small little adjustments that you can make to some of your training that's going to allow you to have that extra little bit in the tank to just get that extra rep that you can't get or get up to the next again weight. If you're not already, make sure you are subscribed for the best content of all time in the history of the planet, and also make sure to follow me on Instagram. So obviously you're going to be getting the quick tips, but you're also going to get the real meaty stuff, the real principles behind training and what you need to do to become strong and handsome, because I share it on both here and Instagram. So make sure that you are subscribed. Do it. So sometimes when you get to a plateau, it can be solved by just powering on and just continuing to push hard, and you will eventually get the reps or the weight that you do want. But sometimes it's going to require a little tweak to your training because you've just essentially hit your threshold with what you're currently doing. But there are options on the little tweaks you can make, and even if it's just on like a singular week basis, to try and just get past where you currently are stuck at. And first of all, something that is going to be pretty effective for you to have that little bit extra in the tank to beat a plateau is by cutting down the volume on the muscle group that you're working. So let's just take bench press and say that you're getting 100 for 4 and you can't get the 5th no matter how hard you try.
Oh no!
What you can potentially do is for a few weeks you can start to drop back the chest volume on other areas of your training so that you can actually go into your main bench press day that little bit fresher. If you're training properly, you should be training everything multiple times a week. So let's just say that you've got another day that you train your chest or do a bench press variation, then what you can simply do is you can cut down the amount of working sets you do in that day, so when you come to your main bench day, you're going to have that little bit extra in the tank and you can go and hit that PB. However, the inverse of that might be that you need to add more volume, and let's just say that right now you're only doing 8 sets of chest a week. You might need to go up to 10 or 12 to just push on and just build that extra little bit more strength. You can maybe add in a couple of assistance or accessory exercises, or you could actually do the exercise you're stuck on just multiple times a week, and you would cycle it so that you're not going absolute hell for leather both sessions. You would do something like a heavy day and a light day.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
And what would probably work even better than that is if the second day that you do your, let's just say, bench press, is you do a different variation of bench. So something that I quite like to do with my clients is that I'll get them doing normal bench press one day, and then on their secondary day they're doing pause bench press, so they're obviously training that bottom position, and it's also kind of forcing them to use slightly less load so they're not overly stimulating the muscles that we want to be fresh when it comes to bench day. Something else I like to do that can be very effective for both getting extra reps or just being able to just push that one set, one weight further, is adding in back off or drop sets. And listen, my vernacular, I just call them drop sets, but I don't literally mean what you might think a drop set is, which is you put your weight down and then jump right into something else. Like, I just mean a set you do with dropped weight after your heaviest.
Get the fuck out of here.
In a very simple nutshell, what effectively you're doing when you are utilising a drop set is you're getting your muscles to work past the point where you normally stop. So for example, when you get that 100 kilos for 4 on your bench press, that's where you fail, that's where you stop, and then that's when you move on to something else. Whereas if you actually put a drop set in, and even if you just go back and do something for 6 or 8 or 10 or whatever, then you're actually now just getting your muscles essentially in the habit of doing more than, or doing something after 100 for 4, which hopefully down the line will eventually translate to 100 for 5. Now, in terms of adding in extra accessory exercises, then what you should probably be looking to do when you're hitting a plateau is trying to target the part of the lift that you feel is letting you down. So again, bench press, you might fail at the bottom, you might fail in the middle, you might fail towards the top, which I suppose is pretty much the way every exercise works. But let's say you're failing from the mid to the top. That's an indication that it's going to be your triceps that are a little bit weak, and again, it's the top part of the movement you need to work on. So you put in an accessory exercise which actually trains that. And for example, one of my go-to exercise would be something like a floor press, where you're literally coming halfway down essentially, your elbows aren't coming past your body, and then you're just training that top portion of the lift. And obviously if you start working on that and building strength in that part of the movement, that'll then translate onto onto the main lift. All those are sort of from a programming point of view, but there are some adjustments that you can make within the actual way that you're doing your exercise itself to actually get a little bit more out of it. Starting off with the way that you build up to it and your jumps on the way up, which I've got a big bugbear with because most people just absolutely butcher it, and it's why in my coaching I literally plan out every single set. Everybody does, even build up sets, so that they are doing it the most effective way possible, and obviously to hold them accountable to make sure they are doing it so they don't get repeatingitis. You can potentially change the volume and jumps that you do on the way up to conserve some energy. So for example, let's say we'll keep just using this 100 kilo bench press example. Let's say you pyramid up, but what you do is you do higher reps and then lower the reps as you go up. And let's just say you do a set of 10, a set of 8, a set of 6, and then aiming for a set of 5. What you could simply do is you could chop the reps off on the way up, and you could maybe do a set of 8, a set of 6, a set of 5, a set of 5, or it could just be straight 6s all the way up, or 5s, or whatever it may be. What you could also do to not burn yourself out on the way up is widen the gaps in your jump. So let's just say to get to 100 kilo bench press you do something like 85, 90, 95, 100. For all of those sets there, you're working pretty near what your max is going to be. So what I maybe recommend that you could do is you take your first working weight and you maybe do 75, then 87 and a half, then 95, and then 100, and then that way again you're still building it up and you're potentially
uh-oh, retard alert.
That was about to be 2 slurs in a row, but you will prepare yourself better for that top set because you're still building yourself up and you're just not doing it without as heavy loads. And just always remember that as you are building up through your sets, your jump should be getting incrementally smaller or staying the same. I think I just said incrementally.
I'm retarded?
But there are people that don't prepare themselves enough for their top set because they take 2 big jumps on the way up, and what they'll do is, in the name of trying to conserve energy to get to 100 kilo bench press, they'll do like a warm-up set with the bar, a set of 60, a set of 70, and then jump all the way up to 100, and your body is just going to be like,
what's that, brother?
you know the meme about like surprising and shocking the muscles? Like that is it in real form. Like your body isn't going to handle like that big massive jump, and it's been the bigger jump that you've done the whole day. Your muscles aren't going to be ready for that big massive jump. So what you might need to do is you might need to shorten the jumps that you do, just so that as you're working up through your working weights, you're not going to be failing anything, but your body's just actually going to be prepared to get to that 100 kilos from a slightly closer range, say 95, 92 and a half or whatever, rather than trying to jump like 30 kilos, which in this case would actually be like a 40% jump.
Quick maths.
But finally, and starting to get a little bit more technical, you can alter your rep scheme just to help build a little bit more volume at that weight that you're stuck at. So this is a technique that I've always done and it always works pretty well. So let's just say you're stuck at 100 kilos for 4, you do 4 reps in a session. What you can do is you can go through a few weeks where you just like break this volume down that you're doing at the 100 kilos into a few sets, so that way you're going to be able to get more. So for example, if you can get 4 at 100, I would anticipate that you're probably going to be able to get 3 sets of 2 at 100. So there you go, that's 6 reps that you've did. And then when you start totaling 2, 3, 4 reps more than what you can do in a single set over, let's just say 3 sets, then your body's going to have probably a better chance of being ready to go and get that over the 1 set.
We're coming after you! We're coming after you!
Then when you're getting 2, 3, 4 reps more over, let's just call it 3 sets than what you could on 1 set, then that's a good indicator that you're probably going to be ready to put that all together over the 1 set and beat the previous weight that you were stuck on. When I use this method, I always just keep it over 3 sets, and whenever I do anything with the straight sets model, I always keep it 3 sets max, because anything above that just bores the shit out of me, and I just think it turns into strength endurance, but that's a different subject. It can be hard to equate your strength because obviously you're not doing over 1 set and you're obviously resting in between, but a real rough gauge that I always like to use is that anything that you can do 3 sets of 3 with, that's going to put you in the ballpark of a single set of 6. So realistically, if you're aiming for that 100 kilo bench press for 5, then that 3 sets of 3 with it is probably what you need to be aiming for before you go and attempt it again. There is another method you can use, which is like rest pauses, which is basically where you'll do some reps, take a very short rest, and then go and do it again. So it's almost like still in the same set, but you're getting a rest in between. And personally, that's not really a method that I use. I just like to use my straight sets model, as I said. So hopefully you've had stuff you can take away from that today, and you have learned, and you're not going to be stuck on any more plateaus, a bit like how I'm ready to pull my hair out, that I'm stuck at 105 kilos for 2 on push press. That as of this recording, it's been like 4 bloody sessions, and I just keep either mistiming it or just not being strong enough.
Period of play to add on 3 minutes.
Because I'm working in low reps and sets of 3 on all my working sets on the way up, I'm obviously eliminated a lot of things that I can do that I've just listed, but one thing that I have started to do is I have started to target the weak point of the lift with extra accessory work, and that is I'm doing a pin shoulder press where I am just starting my press from just above my head, which is the start of my weak point of the lift that I'm struggling with, and just building strength in that range. It's only been a couple of weeks, but I'm hoping that that strength starts to carry over in the not too distant future, and then I can move the fuck on from it. Coaching inquiry form link below. If there's any questions about anything, just shoot me a message on Instagram. That's all from me, and I will catch you in the next one.